Hey there, Regina Andler here with Autumn Ascent Consulting, and it is Motivation Monday. Our theme this week is creativity. So, what do we got about creativity? Let's bring up our screens here so we can flip screens. Creativity on the VIA Institute, which we've been following along for our 24 VIA character strengths. Creativity is of the virtue wisdom. And characteristics are your original, adaptive, ingenuity. I'm actually from New England in the US, and I know we have a lot of viewers worldwide. Here in the Northeast in the US, we have this thing that we refer to as Yankee ingenuity. And that's us Yankees up here being really creative about what we're doing when we have to find creative new ideas or new ways to do things. So that's the ingenuity piece, and seeing and doing things in a different way. So that's what creativity is all about. And when it comes to the overuse, according to the VIA Institute, of creativity, that would be being a little eccentric, right? So when you're eccentric, what does that mean? That means that you go a little overboard and maybe you're a little too creative. Maybe you're a little too out there for some people as far as your creativity is concerned. Then again, the underuse is conformity, meaning you do what everybody else does. So you're not really doing anything creative or seemingly creative because you're busy trying to basically do what everybody else is doing, right? So when it comes to the creative mind, now, back in the 1960s, there was a bunch of studies done. And now I'm a lefty. I'm left-handed. Not sure if that looks like left or right on the screen, but I'm a lefty. And when it comes to being a lefty, there was sayings meaning that if you're a lefty, that means your right mind, your right brain is the most dominant. And if you're a righty, your left brain is most dominant. And it went on to say that if you are in your right brain, so if you're a lefty in your right brain, then that's where all of that creative stuff was. You see the little violin here and the creative stuff over in your left hand, over on your right mind. Right mind. I'm getting them confused now. And so then we have over on the other side, we have our left side of our brain, which is the logical side of the brain. That's where the math, the facts, and all of that logical stuff lives, right? Now, here's the thing. More recent studies have found that it doesn't matter from a lefty-righty standpoint where where you are as far as creativity is concerned. It doesn't matter. So if people say that if the creativity is over in that right side of your brain where your imagination lives and all of that stuff is, as versus the left side of your brain where all the logical type stuff is, it doesn't matter. We're all in both sides of our brains. Now, according to a study done by Psychology Today in 2019, they came up with some results finding that, first off, there was no real difference between left-handers and right-handers. However, they found that, and I'm going to read this right off of my notes here, they found that the effect of handiness, which hand you use, if you had a strong preference for one hand over the other, then either the right or the left, then that was where you were a little bit more dominant. However, there's a lot of people who do left and right. Me, for instance, I'm left-handed. I'm left-handed, so I right lefty and all that kind of thing. And I found when I did sports, all of my sports, I do righty. I hit a bat, I hit golf balls. Everything I do from sports is righty. So what does that mean? Well, it actually shows proof to the Psychology Today 2019 study that it doesn't matter. We're all using both sides of our brain. However, those of us who are kind of like on the in between, on the cusp of we use our right for this, we use our left for this. If you spend a lot of time in that in between, then you're kind of average for your creativity. Whereas if you are really dominant, so everything you do is left-handed, everything you do is right-handed, then what they found is that those people do tend to have a little bit more of that. Hey, if you're a righty and you're all out righty, then yeah, it's a little bit more on that logical side of things. Whereas if you're a lefty and all out lefty, then yeah, you're a little bit more creative. Now, here's the thing. I know a ton of really, really super creative people. And when I say creative, I'm thinking about stuff like, they can make things. These earrings that I'm wearing today were made for me by a friend of mine. I find this stuff, all this crafty type stuff. When I think of creativity, I think of the crafty stuff. And there's a lot of people I know that make this kind of stuff. They do quilts, they do paintings, they do all that kind of thing. And guess what? The majority of them that I know, they're all righties. So I don't know. Do we need a new study? Could be. Here's some tips. If you are one of those people who are always saying, you know what, I'm not really that creative. I used to say that all the time. And then I learned something. I learned that creativity is not just about all those crafty things. Creativity is being creative, basically thinking outside the box. So on number one, draw, color, doodle, paint. Do you remember when you were a kid and you went out and you had coloring books going on all the time and all this stuff going on, and your child creative mind, oh my gosh, a child is nothing but creative. It's the imagination is there. You're playing pretend all the time. It is all creative, right? And then we start learning that, well, we're supposed to be, more calm and not so creative, and that might people might look at you like there's something wrong with you. You're a little weird if you're a little too out of the box creative. Why? Because you're not the norm. And you know what? That's okay. But as a kid, it didn't matter. You just did. And then as we got older, we learned to conform. So what can you do? One of the things you can do is go out and draw and color and doodle and paint. They have the paint nights for the adults. I've been to many of them myself. Now, that creative side of me, that crafty side of me, let's just say even following the instruction of the instructors, I'm not necessarily the best painter when it comes to paint night out with the girls. However, I go out and do it, and it is uniquely mine. When I am done with my painting at the end of the night, it is definitely uniquely mine. So my creativity comes out as it is. Number two is to get physical. When you work out, when you do all that stuff, the physical exercise increases the blood flow to your brain, and that helps promote clarity and your creativity. So just by working out and getting physical, do a road race. If you want to go out, do a road race. You can sign up for a road race. For those of you who don't know anything about racing and a race might scare you, all those road races, can you walk? Because all of those road races, that's where I first started. They allow you to actually walk. Yeah, you're at the back of the pack. All the runners are up front. And you just go and you walk your 5K. You walk 3 miles, it's perfectly fine. And that is just awesome for getting that brain creativity flowing. I get the best ideas when I'm working out. I'll tell you, my brain just goes there. Now, the next one is to turn everything off. Now, what does that mean? Embrace boredom. Turn everything off and get bored. Why? Because your brain does not like being bored. Your brain wants something to do. Your brain wants to be active. So when you shut everything off, that's all technology, everything. When you turn everything off, what happens is that your brain starts deep diving into your subconscious. It's looking for stuff to do. And you'd be surprised at the creative thoughts that your brain can come up with to give you something to do when you're bored. Have you ever sat there and maybe you're in a waiting room and you're just bored waiting and you're looking around and all of a sudden you see something, your brain starts going, wow, what if that was a different color? Or what if this was this? Oh, look, what if that plant came to life? Or you come up with these really weird things that are going on. That's your creative mind working. And it was all accessed because you were bored. The next one is to learn something new. When you say listen to a podcast or maybe even read a book or watch a TED talk, something different, something that you don't know, when you learn something new, your creative mind starts going. Why? Because your brain didn't know this before. Now it opens up new avenues for other thoughts to come into your head. When you learn something new, what happens? Generally, you start asking questions. When you start asking questions, that's your creative mind going out there looking for more information. So creative doesn't have to be all this crafty stuff. It can also be just getting outside of the box and coming up with something new. So the next one is come up with new ideas. Coming up with new ideas. I'm not sure if you can see this guy in, point him to that way. The guy up in the corner that's on the picture there, if you can see him on my screen, that's Leonardo da Vinci. Very creative guy. So as an inventor, and oh gosh, Leonardo da Vinci did so much stuff. Very, very, very creative mind. You think of those painters, those inventors, you think of the Einsteins as the crazy people that were out there that were doing all of this creative stuff. Some of it logical, some of it just fun, creating things. So when you learn something new and you come up with these new ideas, start looking in on those new ideas. You never know just how creative you can be. And the next one is to go out and play. When you play, you open up your brain to creativity. When you play, you remember when you were a kid and you went out and you were playing around with your friends, and you were playing pretend, and maybe you were playing house, maybe you were playing doctor. I don't know, whatever it was that you're out there playing. You made stuff up. That's creativity. The next one from there is to get out of your comfort zone. All creativity is outside of your comfort zone. Your comfort zone is where you want to kind of stay. Your brain kind of wants to stay in that comfort zone. When you start creeping outside of your comfort zone, your brain's like, whoa, where are you going? That's where all the creativity is. That's where all the new stuff is. That's where all the stuff you don't quite know yet, even if maybe you kind of sort of do know it, all that stuff lives outside of that comfort zone. And the last but not least is to think outside the box. All of that stuff outside of your comfort zone is outside the box. So here's something to consider. Do you know what these are? The one on the left is a mood ring. The one on the right is a pet rock. Now, as far as the mood ring is concerned, back in the 70s, 1975, these two inventors, they created the mood ring, and they claimed that the mood ring would change based on your emotional state. So if you were calm, it was blue. If you were really, really stressed and upset, it was black. And there was a whole host of other colors in between. And what it really was is it worked off the temperature. It worked off the temperature of your finger. So when you put the mood ring on your finger, based on what your temperature was, it fluctuates a little bit. And what was inside the mood rings was able to capture that little tiny fluctuation in your temperature so it could tell what mood you were in. Now, who thinks of a mood ring? You're doing something else with something else, the material that they used in the mood ring. And all of a sudden somebody says, hey, let's put this in a ring and sell it. And we'll tell people, it will tell them what their mood is. It became wildly popular. It became one of the fads of the 70s. Same thing with the pet rock. This guy, Gary Dahl, he literally was he was out with some friends, and as a joke, they were talking about pets. And he's out talking about pets with his friends. And he jokes on the side saying that, well, he has a pet rock. And why does he have a pet rock? Well, because, pet rocks don't eat your rug. They don't jump all over the bed. They don't get muddy paws all over the place. There's no problems with them. There's no cleaning up after them. Well, that sparked some creativity in Gary Dahl, and he went out and created the pet rock. And all he did was literally pick up rocks and put them in a little box with little air holes and some care and feeding instructions. And he made millions of dollars from creatively coming up with an idea that was so far outside of the box. People looked at him, what are you, crazy? You're really going to sell people a rock and they're going to buy a rock as a pet? Millions. He sold millions of them. So never doubt your creativity. Your next idea could be a multi-million-dollar idea. You never know. So, creativity is just connecting things. When you ask creative people how they did something, they feel a little guilty because they didn't really do it. They just saw something. It seemed obvious to them. Steve Jobs said that, and he couldn't have put creativity in any better words. That is what creativity is. It's like this puzzle here. It's like the mood ring, the pet rock. It's just connecting things, connecting ideas, and coming up with something new and different. Now, does that mean your creativity is all going to go over really good? There were lots and lots of failed attempts at creativity for things that people came up with that didn't quite make it. Now, it's the ones that make it that all of a sudden you look at and you're like, wow, they made millions of dollars on that. Some of that creativity can go a long, long way. So, for our weekly quest this week, how can you add some more creativity into your day? Where can you be more creative? Can you go out and think about, something new? Maybe you're creatively solving a problem at work. Maybe there's something going on and you're working and there's some kind of problem, and you and the staff and everybody, you're going through it over and over and over again, and you can't quite seem to figure out how to fix the problem that you have. Think outside the box. Get creative on the solution to your problem. Or at this time of the year, this is being filmed at Christmas time. We're in our Christmas season. A lot of people are being very creative right now on Christmas gifts and creating new things like these earrings that my girlfriend created for me, or making quilts, or crocheting, or knitting, or painting, or creating ornaments. I have somebody who creates gift baskets, and they look absolutely stunning and beautiful. Where can your creativity bring you this week? So that's your weekly quest for the week, is to go out and find something creative to do. And again, it doesn't have to be crafty. It could be a creative solution to something that's going on that you just haven't really narrowed down a solution for yet. Think outside that box. Think about where you can throw in some creativity to come up with maybe something completely different that nobody's thought of yet. Last but not least, you can find us over at the Harmony and Balance Connection for Women on Facebook in the group. We have our business page over at Autumn Ascent Consulting, and on YouTube at Autumn Ascent Consulting. Come on over and join us. There's always new things going on all the time, and I'm always open to new ideas on things that you want to talk about. And here, we're going to be bringing on some live guests soon into our Facebook group. So stay tuned for that. I'll keep you posted. And until next week, thanks for joining us. Bye for now.